Good morning. It's Sunday, and I thought I would go ahead and collect some pomegranates and just talk to you guys. So if you're interested in watching some beautiful eye candy, just stick with me. So I went outside and we had this pomegranate tree, and it is a pomegranate that I always forget the name of, and it is wonderful because it has these watermelon flavored pomegranate seeds, and you can see how beautiful they are. This is currently August the 20, where's my watch? August 22nd, and I thought this was a fall type of plant, or harvest I should say. And you can see that all of the little pomegranate seeds look perfect, and I was actually really surprised. And I thought that what I would do is show you just how I collect them and how long it takes to collect them. And I've seen all different kinds of ways of doing this, and I can never figure out what's the best way or the right way. And sometimes, a lot of times, you just use this as kind of almost like a meditation. If you've gotten some green beans prepared, you can just sit there for 10-30 minutes just getting them all prepped, or shelling peas. Those are the kind of things that just take some time, and I have never found these particular types of pomegranates in the store, and so the only way for us to get these was to actually grow the tree. Now the tree is probably now somewhere like 5 years old, and the first, I would say, maybe 2 to 3 years, it was just sitting there not really doing much. And one of the things that we realized is that you need to take a pomegranate tree and you need to make sure that you're always pruning it, and that stimulates the growth. You want to prune it when it's fall and it's in the dormant period. And if you do that, you start to get more and more growth. And that growth is really important. It stimulates its ability to then produce fruit. Though each year it would produce a tiny bit more fruit until it's just like prolific. And so I would say the first year, no fruit. Second year, probably some fruit, but it didn't really develop. And some means maybe like 3 or 4 different of these fruit. And what we wound up doing was just being patient, because we had done this over at Joaquin's father's place, and we saw the same thing. The first few years, not a lot of fruit, and then all of a sudden it just like explodes. And this is the year that, and it's now 2021, that this tree has really exploded. And you can see I've cut these into little wedges, and I'll show you how to do that in just a little bit when we do another one. And what happens is that you will wind up with so many fruit. What happened was we have branches that were upright, and then they were falling over because there's so much fruit that they were touching the ground. They actually like crushed some of the other trees that were next to it. And what we did is that we took some different 6x4s and 4x4s and have tried to prop up some of those limbs so they're not all over some of the plants that are next to them, because we kind of plant in an urban high density forest, and that way you have a lot of things growing under the trees. But that also means that the branches cannot fall on the ground, otherwise it's not going to work very well. Now, this type of collecting of fruit is something I want to do on a regular basis. You don't want to have so much, but you can see like some of these here have a little bit of brownness. And so if you let the fruit go on the tree for too long, they're just going to start to rot. The other thing is that, if you have like rodents, which everyone does, there's like tree rats probably almost everywhere in Los Angeles County. And you need to be able to pick the fruit before the rodents get to them. One, you just don't want to feed all the rodents, but at the same time, you want to make sure that if you're putting a lot of effort into keeping your trees, that you actually get to eat that wonderful fruit that you're collecting. It's also just good in terms of like making sure that if you are doing a lot of gardening like us in the front yard, that it doesn't look like you're like feeding all the rodents in the neighborhood, because that just won't go over very well with your neighbors. And so we try to be good citizens. I'm thinking that the other thing you can do is when you find people who want to share the fruit, there are different apps and websites that you can use. Also, just like on our neighborhood Facebook group, a lot of people will like post that they have extra fruit. And so I think when we get to the point that we've gotten sick of all these pomegranates, or just don't want to like clean these anymore, we can start to just give them out to the neighbors, or I can bring them to work so people can try them out, which I think will be super fun. Now, these aren't super sweet, but they are sweet over tart. And so then I think they're just like the perfect little combination of a snack that can be just really refreshing. Especially, I had thought this was more fall, but now I'm realizing that in August we are getting a lot of fruit. And then what I'll do is take off these little skins in between. They're not really skins. I forget what the name of it is. Something else to look up. One of the things that you want to try to do is try not to crush them. You can also make some juices out of this if you want to. You can put them in your smoothies. The one thing you got to do though at some point is you got to plant the tree, because the sooner you plant it, the sooner you are going to start to get some fruit. And again, you want to be really patient. It's going to take a few years, and so find a friend who has already a pomegranate tree. Hey, that's me. You can go ahead and then I can give you some, because I have lots of extra. They're kind of on the small side. You can see like this one just fits in the palm of my hand. So we're going to open that one up and see. This one was a little bit bigger, but I'm just looking for a slight blush. So actually, I thought these weren't going to be ready to eat because they were mostly green, but I saw that the branch that we had propped up with the 4x4, the leaves are starting to turn yellow. So I'm worried that because we propped it up and we had to push it up so high that maybe there's too much pressure on the limb, and so it's actually dying. So we're gonna have to see about that. I think the whole tree is gonna have to be pruned because it was just flopping over so much that it's just got too much fruit on it, which seems crazy. So maybe having more fruit and kind of more of a, almost like a fence. So a line rather than trying to have one big pomegranate tree is probably the way we're gonna wind up having our little forest here. So those are looking good. You can also put some water in here. And so now I'm gonna just show you how I wind up. There we go. So you wanna just cut off the end and hopefully not cut off your finger at the same time. Just enough so that you can see some of them, but hopefully not crush too many. Oh, that's frosty. And then let's cut off this end here. I'm doing a little bit more because last time I didn't do enough. So you can see that's where the little area is in between. And so I will take a little bit more off of this side here so we can just see where the little septations are in between. Actually, that made it a little bit hard. So then you want to take this, and then right where you have the little separation, you can then cut in between. Let's see if I can do this while looking at the screen. So I'm just doing a little bit of cuts. And this is actually what I do with oranges. You can do it with the grapefruit. And then that way you're cutting in between the little wedges of the fruit. And then that way when you open them up, you wind up being able to pull out all the fruit a little bit more easily. Or I should say the seeds a little bit more easily. So then you can just cut these, and you can see it cuts right in between. And I'm going to take this, and there we go, another one here. And all of this will be rinsed under water. That will get all the little bits of the, all this little material in between. And you can see it just takes a while. So I've done one already, and I actually kind of started the video after I'd probably done maybe a couple minutes of, prepping. So you can see we're probably at 10 minutes. So it does take a while to do this. And you don't want to do too many. So usually I'll do 1 to 2 at a time. And then that way there's some always in the fridge, and they're refreshing when they're cool. So then that's why I like to keep them in the refrigerator. But I probably would like them not to be in the refrigerator more than a day, so we can like prep one that you would eat the next day, and then you would have to be just doing this maybe every day or every other day to just get some fruit ready. And then hopefully that branch that's falling over is going to be able to not have as much weight on it. And these are only, I just collected one yesterday, and that was the first test one where I realized that this was actually going to be really wonderful fruit at this time. And then this would be the second and the third one, so still really early on. And I'm not totally sad about having to do so much work to get the little seeds out, but I think this is going to wear down my ability to like enjoy this pretty quickly. So we will try to do this every day going through September, and then that way you know, and some of these you'll see are a little bit brown. If you try to get those out, then that way if you didn't get to eat them, then that would be a way to make sure that they are, you know, going to stay relatively fresh. Those ones that are kind of rotting a little bit have the brownness, and that will just ruin all the other fruits or other seed that you have. And the other thing is just make a real quick smoothie. If you are finding that you have some that are sitting, you don't want to, you know, have these go bad, because, you know, the tree put a lot of energy into making these. And if anything, you know, I try not to give away fruit though that's been sitting in my fridge for a day, because it's just not that great. It's because someone else might not eat it right away, and then they wind up like feeling like that's not great fruit. And I always want people to have like a really special experience if they're trying something from our yard. So I usually will give out some eggs, or if people are at work, I might bring one of these and then find out if other people are interested, and then bring them to those people who asked for them, because then that way I know that they're going to eat them. And then you can also kind of preface, you know, your little gift with the please eat this right away, otherwise it's not going to taste very good. Again, because, you know, people are used to buying things at the store that are, you know, a little bit under ripe. Maybe not so with pomegranates. And I'll just be honest, there's pomegranates flying everywhere right now, or at least the seeds are flying everywhere. So we do try to keep as much these, when I look at this, I'm like, argh, they're kind of buried in the, there we go, buried underneath some of the parts of the fruit. Now the chickens love these. So if we do have one where there's a lot of, you know, rot in an area, we will open it up for the chickens to eat, and they love it. And of course, if there's little bugs or worms in them, they actually love them even more. So they are a great way to have another, you know, I guess being who's going to eat and enjoy these. I'm hoping you're liking how beautiful these are. I'm going to find the name, and again, the other thing that's really interesting that I'm going to try to do, which I tried and was not successful this year, was to grow some. So pomegranates are really interesting because you can grow them and they will grow true from branches. And so if you can get a branch to start, so you cut a branch, put a little rooting hormone on it. I got a couple different types of liquid and a powder. For some reason, they just did not grow, but I also was not being super careful about the type of soil that I used. So you need to have a really well-draining soil. I try not to use a lot of perlite, but it seems like that might be the trick to doing it, because that's what everyone always says. I try not to use like something that I don't necessarily have. Go out and buy something. Just puts one little hurdle to making it accessible to everyone. Oh, there we go. Oh, and I'm actually sitting on the ground, so my leg is falling asleep here. But we are almost finished. I think one more, and then that is it. So actually, you know what I'll do is I can actually weigh this, and then we can figure out how much it is. Actually, you know what? Can we do that right now? Oh my gosh, that's super pretty. Okay, hang on here. Oh, my legs. Oh, okay, legs. Oops, I threw it in the wrong spot. So let's, I don't think we have to weigh it. Do we have to weigh it? Let's just kind kind of interesting because then you can see how much you're harvesting. And then you can kind of peek at the grocery store and see how much they're charging and say, hey, I saved like $4 by like spending 15 minutes like taking the seeds out of a pomegranate. And again, this is the type of pomegranate seed that you would not find at the grocery store. This tastes just like watermelon, and it is super healthy for you. All right, there we go. Bye. Go out there and grow something.